Part 97. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 964. Shave a small area of hair. Inject medication. Change the needle. Change a cow, shave a small piece of hair, and inject the medicine. Bernard, Valenchimo, and the two Golden Eagle soldiers were divided into 4 groups, each carrying potions to work. As for Sarah, she stayed with Gretel and never left. Greet Pharmaceuticals, she was watching the production line, helping with freezing and draining. Gretel was observing the effectiveness of the medicine, and she held a notebook next to her, writing down records, and occasionally had to subdue the bison. This is a thermometer, don't bite. Gretel activated the directed sterilization technique, and she was eager to learn next to her. How to lock, these bacteria all look the same. They are blunt, like short sticks, so the dye can be infected. It feels like many cells are the same. Why can't I kill them? Sarah, please don't kill indiscriminately. Greet was startled and quickly stopped her. If you can't lock it, you can't kill indiscriminately. If you just rely on the characteristics of blunt, short stick-like to lock it, there will be many rod-shaped cells in the human body, the cow's body. For example, rod cells, such as retinal rod cells. Killing indiscriminately will cause big problems. Celera, let's review the characteristics of the cell again with luck. Gretel projected an image of the specimen, thanks to the record of the meditation core, and then told the silver dragon girl. No spores, no flagella, no movement, facultatively anaerobic, it can live even with oxygen and can live without oxygen. The ends of the bacteria are often heavily stained. A series of descriptions were reported, and Cyrilla blinked, and ripples appeared in her silver blue eyes, like 2 capital letters dizzy. That expression is exactly the same as that of any student who usually doesn't study hard and just crams into things temporarily. Greet inhaled and exhaled, and projected the record again, telling Cyrilla what a flagellum looked like, what a spore looked like, and what the difference was between moving and non-moving cells. After talking for a long time, Cyrilla seemed to remember it and continued to describe. This thing is not big. The length is about 0.6-2.5 microns, and the width is 0.25-0.3 microns. It should not exceed 0.5 microns. How do you know? This is measured under a microscope. According to the magnification, it is probably, maybe the size. Anyway, just remember it. Remember these characteristics before trying to kill. If you can't remember, don't mess around. Kill. Cyrilla turned her head in dismay. Greet held the petri dish in his hand and continued working. Well, this pathogenic bacteria looks like someone from the Pasteurella family. It can cause septicemia symptoms in cattle. Let's temporarily name it Pasteurella septicarum. After summarizing the characteristics, use the characteristics to kill, and kill each one accurately. But Cyrilla was in a worse situation. No matter how she activated the spell, it was like a breeze blowing on her face, and the sick cow didn't react at all. I had no choice but to work hard and throw remove disease down one by one. Mad. To treat the same sick cow, Greet used less than 1/10 of her strength. Even if she is a silver dragon with a much higher level than Gretel, and her magical power is many times that of Gretel, she cannot be wasted like this. Cyrilla. If you can't master it yet, just follow behind and help throw healing spells. Greet turned back and called her. The germs have been killed, but those cows won't recover immediately. I'm here to kill the germs and help them regain their strength. After the symptoms of sepsis appear, the bacteria will produce a large amount of endotoxin, which will affect the homeostasis of the sick cow and require a long time to metabolize it. In this case, killing the germs alone won't help. You need treatment to get them back to health quickly. All right. Sarala pouted and followed behind, spreading healing spells one by one. Gretel walked around a large circle, tried his best to treat the sick cows in this area, and came to see the white-horned king. As promised before, I will help treat the plague, and you will provide the calf to make medicine. Can you provide it now? The Buffalo tribe and Black Panther tribe next door are also waiting for my medicine. Soon, 200 calves were neatly arranged in front of Greet. Gretel took a deep breath and pointed forward. The Buffalo tribe. Go to work. Shave all their hair. I'm going. Why are you still using flint knives? Bring the knives. Group sharpness technique. A flash of light flashed, and the stone knives in the hands of the natives were each covered with a layer of light. The speed of shaving the calf was so fast that Gretel had no time to see clearly. Wow, it's so fast. Why did I shave it off before I could see the hair clearly? Slow down. Be careful not to scratch the calf. No one paid any attention to him. The warriors of the Buffalo tribe, these natives who have been dealing with cattle all year round, used their strength to tell Gretel. You are professional in treating diseases, but we are professional in raising cattle. Gretel squatted beside him. After all the calves were shaved, he took out a tube of smallpox vaccine and reached forward. Epidemic, disease, technique. All right, the infection is over. Come to me and get a syringe, one for each person. Hurry up and draw out the blisters. The natives swarmed forward. With the Buffalo tribe, the Black Panther tribe, and the descendants of the White-Horned King risking their lives to fight at the front, it took the Plague Girl a full week to advance the front to where the White-Horned King was. In these 5 days, the medicine created by Greet and the treatment he and Sarala jointly cured almost all the sick cows, but some of them were still a little weak. The cowpox vaccine obtained from the calf was also given to the Buffalo tribe and the Black Panther tribe, the two large tribes closest to the affected girl, as well as the small tribes on the front line. All warriors, old and weak, women and children were vaccinated. Again. You see. There are medicines and treatments, so you don't have to be afraid of the plague girl. Gretel even went to several large tribes personally, escorted by the White-Horned King, to vaccinate the warriors. It must be said that epidemic spell and cowpox means a rapid onset of cowpox, which means that immunity can be obtained within 1 day. Compared with the previous vaccination with cowpox alone, you need to wait 7 to 14 days to establish an immune barrier, and the effect is much faster. To fight against the plague girl, you have to gain time. On the second and third days, even if the soldiers were caring for smallpox patients personally, or wearing and using clothes and blankets used by smallpox patients, they were still alive and well, and they were not afraid at all. Don't be afraid of other diseases, Gretel continued to lecture them. As long as the sick person is isolated and treated by someone, washes hands frequently, cleans all clothing, cooks all cups, bowls, and plates, eats well-cooked water and food, kills bed bugs and fleas, this can prevent the spread of the disease to the greatest extent. The natives were obedient. When Gretel walked away, the witch priests and great witch priests of each tribe immediately stood in his position and shouted to the tribesmen at the top of their lungs. You have seen it all. Our soldiers, our old, weak, women and children are not afraid of this new plague. This plague lord, the youngest son of the god of thunder, his power can completely contain the power of the plague girl. Such speeches were spread repeatedly among tribes. The soldiers, women, and children touched the pimpled scars on their left upper arms and looked at the tribesmen who were bedridden before but were now alive and kicking. Their eyes lit up with fire. Lord of Plagues! Lord of Plagues! Lord of Plagues! The name Plague Lord sounds more majestic than Plague Girl. With his protection, everyone no longer has to be afraid. Moo! The White-Horned King stood on the gentle slope, lowered his head, and looked down at his tribe. Most of the cows, calves, and some young bulls that were still dying of illness have stood up, wagging their tails and snorting. Although there are still some that are relatively weak, Cyrilla's treatment technique cannot cover all the sick cows after all, and most of them have to recover slowly, but this time, they survived. Survived. Moo. The white-horned king raised his head and roared. In the song, rich information was conveyed to the ethnic group. Everyone has seen it. The power of the plague girl is not terrible. Everyone, move back and go to a clean place. Don't eat the grass around the sick person, and don't drink the water excreted by the sick person. Warriors, the Lord of Plague is making new equipment for you. With the protection of the Lord of Plague, the power of the plague girl will be weakened to the lowest level. Moo. On the grassland, the crowing of cattle shook the sky. Greed covered her mouth from a distance. In front of him, large pieces of rubber and glass piled up into a hill, which were constantly flying, deforming, and combining under the influence of his mental power. Cyrilla squatted at the other end, with her fingers spread out, controlling a ball of flame to cover the tree trunk in front of her. While contracting the flame, he muttered something. Activated carbon, it needs to be very fine charcoal, with many holes on the surface. How to make it? Why is Gretel's requirements so high? Gretel, alas, there is nothing I can do. At present, it seems that the way the plague girl spreads this germ is mainly through inhalation. Maybe it will be better to wear a gas mask on those warrior cows? The intense preparations seemed like they would never be finished. And the plague girl's attack finally arrived after all kinds of delays and resistance. The white-horned king had already sent away the cows and cubs in the group, and brought the strong bulls, especially the powerful monsters, to fight against the enemy. The Buffalo tribe, Black Panther tribe, and some warriors and shaman priests from small tribes also held weapons and stood ready. Sitting not far behind the white-horned king, on a smooth and extremely strong bull, Gretel saw the appearance of this god with his own eyes. In the distance, a black wind pillar moved forward wrapped in a large mass of black air. Wherever he passed, the ground was scorched black and the vegetation was withered. Pandemic girl. Your power has exhausted. Right in front, the white-horned king raised his head high and roared with all his strength. And in the wind column, a scream immediately came out, sharp and hoarse. Who is it? Who stole my power? Who is it? Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. There's only one extra update left for tomorrow. It's 40 degrees every day, so hot, people are about to melt. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 965. Gretel sat on the back of a tall, strong bull. Full set of one-piece rubber protective clothing, gas mask, protective glasses. There are no gaps or anything like that. They all use transformation spells to automatically bond the joints together. There were 2 test tubes between his fingers, and a row of test tubes were inserted densely on the improvised wide belt, ready to go. The lightning cat stood on the left shoulder, and the ancient vine bird stood on the right shoulder, looking like if you can't fight, run away. Cyrilla sat next to him on the back of a bull. He was dressed in a light elf ranger outfit, with a pretentious longbow slung on his back, and he didn't even take out his quiver. Only the 2 test tubes held between her fingertips and the shining gem on her forehead can prove that this girl is also ready to take action. Greed turned to look at her from time to time. Celera, please pay attention to your protection. If that doesn't work, put on a gas mask. Respiratory-borne plagues are the most difficult to protect against. New. When releasing the big fireball, remember to connect the 2 test tubes for bonus. No problem. I've practiced it several times. Don't do it unless you have to. Gretel curled up his fingers and simulated the shape of a claw, then stretched out his arms and patted. If you really go up, if you can't stand it, run away. I can escape on my own. I have any door, teleportation, and the ancient vine bird. Know it? Sirara yelled at Greed. His fingers formed into claws and his arms bent, making a gesture to grab Gretel's back collar. Silver blue eyes briefly drew a cold vertical line. Under the two people, moo, moo, the bull carrying them screamed one after another. Not only Sirala, but also Gretel deliberately did not use animals to communicate, pretending not to hear. Anything good to hear? Laughing at us? I am proud to have Sirala. Gretel was filled with nervousness, and he touched the test tube on his belt again and again, and explored the spare protective suit in the space bag again and again. And behind the array of natives and bison, someone was more nervous than him. 50 miles away from the front line, Bernard stood up, sat down, and couldn't help but climb on Appa's back to take a look. After exhausting my eyesight, I couldn't see anything, so I had to sit down and sigh. Baron Simo, why don't you think the boss will let us go together? I am the boss's bodyguard. I am a follower. Put me so far away. If something happens, I won't be able to save you in time. The opponent is the god who controls the plague. He can't be defeated with swords, shields, or big bone clubs. Valensimo sat cross-legged on the ground, wiped the shield in his hand, and answered calmly. The shield connected with the fur, and the squeaking sound was louder and quieter. It was obvious that the warrior was not so calm in his heart. This requires a spellcaster to fight against. Other people's warriors will die if they die, and the boss doesn't want us to die. If the plague hits us head on, the boss will have to come and save us. I know, but, alas, the barbarian gritted his teeth and slammed the big bone stick on the ground, causing dirt to fly. In the past, I could at least run away with my boss. If only he were stronger. If he were that kind of great knight at level 14 or 15, he could shake the world with every move he made, and he could also deal damage to ghosts. That way, the boss wouldn't have thrown him so far. Hold head high. The silver moon deer roared loudly. He looked at the barbarian with squinting eyes, his eyes full of ridicule. You. It's obviously me. I can run faster while carrying the boss. I can even carry the boss on my back, so I don't need you. While the two followers were chatting and worrying about their boss, the battle ahead had already begun. The warriors of the Black Panther tribe stood in the middle of the herd, with a dense row of short spears inserted behind them. The tip of each spear was tied with dead grass soaked in grease. The Dehi tribe, Dandelion tribe, and Stone Crocodile tribe, a group of warriors from small tribes separated on both sides. The shaman priests beat tambourines and played flutes made from bird leg bones to give the final blessings to the warriors. Pieces of bright light fell down and lit their faces. The totem on the body. The warriors of the Buffalo tribe rode on the backs of the cattle. In addition to the weapons around them, each of them also had a small bag hanging on his waist. In the bag were 2 gas masks, for cattle. As for their own faces, each was covered with a piece of fur, with only their eyes and nostrils exposed. Are you so afraid of me? The strong wind in the distance brought the plague girl's sharp laughter. You think you can escape my pursuit by wrapping yourself tightly? Impossible. Give me a sacrifice. Give me an offering. Who stole my power and gave it to me? Faces turned towards Gretel. Even among the bulls that were stamping their feet and panting, dozens of them turned their heads and looked in Greet's direction. Gretel. Look what I'm doing. Not me. It is none of my business. Relieving ordinary people's fear of the plague can weaken the power of the plague girl, but I didn't steal it. Fortunately, no one identified him, and no one thought of kidnapping him out and handing him over to the plague girl or something. The white-horned king roared loudly, and on the left and right sides, the witch priests beat tambourines, blue horns, bone flutes, and panpipes. In the vast mist, the buffalo herds and warriors collectively began to charge. Facing the plague girl and the billowing black clouds, charge. Gretel was still sitting at first, then gradually stood up and looked up. This time the plague girl came with great force, and in addition to herself, she also brought a group of followers. Greet grabbed the telescope, looked at a rolling black cloud, and immediately screamed. My eyes! How? Sarala immediately looked over, her fingertips were shining with white light, and she had already grasped a healing spell. Greet waved her hands repeatedly. No, no, I saw nasty dirty things. The mice running with red eyes, each one bigger than a cat, were so black that they covered the ground like a black carpet. A fly as big as a fist lays maggots as it flies. The maggots squirm and soon turn into flies again, flying up one after another. Mosquitoes as big as a palm flew together in dense numbers, like a black cloud with white spots covering them. The lines on the body, bed bugs, and fleas can be clearly seen one by one. Help! Please give me a pair of eyes that I haven't seen before. The Plague Maiden has brought all her followers. The white-horned king scratched his hooves and breathed uneasily. Rat god, fly god, bugs, fleas, and their followers, never have they been like this before. That's because her strength didn't drop significantly before. A loud voice suddenly sounded in the battle formation. The great witch priest of the buffalo tribe raised his battle axe high and waved it vigorously. In the past, the plague girl could kill our warriors on her own, but now she can't do it. If she can't do it, she can only bring the gods. Everyone, tie up your clothes and put your pants on your boots. Tie them up and don't let these things get on you. That's right, the great witch of the Black Panther tribe also raised his voice. Whether it's bed bugs or fleas, they can't bite through our protection. Soldiers, come on. The iron stream rolls forward. Sarala covered her nose and whispered, should we take action? Let's wait and see. Gretel wasn't sure yet. After all, we are a reserve force, and our main task is to treat. Let's check the situation first, and if it doesn't work, we can take over. That's good. The silver dragon girl immediately breathed a sigh of relief. I thought about throwing a big fireball, but with so many maggots exploding, I couldn't bear it. Stop talking, Gretel was horrified and quickly interrupted her. At the front of the battle formation, the soldiers have already begun to take action. The first wave was made up of warriors from the Black Panther tribe, who collectively lit the spears and threw them with their arms. The spear flew across the air, fell to the ground and ignited a wall of fire. In the second wave, the shaman priests played various musical instruments. Huge kestrels, bison, and various totem gods appeared above the battle formation at the same time. The wall of fire exploded, making those bugs and fleas crackle. In the third wave, the mice, which were bigger than cats, threw themselves into the wall of fire, crushing it and destroying it. Black water flowed across the ground, suddenly rising high, and pounced on the soldiers and bison in front. Cover your mouth and nose. Don't inhale it. Don't drink the water on the ground. Don't drink it no matter how thirsty you are. Gretel threw himself a megaphone, and his shouts echoed across the battlefield. The male form of the diseased devil sounds like a giant carrion filled with Shigella dysentery, Vibrio cholerae, Shigella, and a series of other digestive tract infectious bacteria. But digestive tract infectious diseases are easy to prevent, as long as you don't drink. As for splashing on the nose and mouth, isn't everyone wearing fur masks? Bang, 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 the great shaman of the Dehi tribe banged the tambourine vigorously. From behind him, a group of black and white shadows rose quietly, and soon turned into an illusory river. Tap tap, tap tap, tap tap. The warriors of the Dehi tribe hammered their chests with one hand, waved axes and sticks with the other hand, and danced a tap dance. In the sound of clapping hands and stamping feet, the illusory river is getting bigger and bigger, rolling forward and colliding with the black water. The moment before the waves collided, Countless dandelions fell down and floated on the river. When the river collided with the black water, dandelions sprouted one by one and blossomed into small yellow flowers. The yellow flowers turn into white velvet balls, blow open, and grow again. The turbulent black water was actually blocked by this big river for a moment, and when it flowed over again, it had become much clearer. Greet smiled happily. Dandelion has a bitter, sweet, and cold nature and flavor. Returns to liver and stomach meridians, clears away heat and detoxifies, reduces swelling, and dissipates stagnation. It seems that although the indigenous people in this world have different understanding of medicine than him, they also subconsciously feel the detoxification function of dandelion. Using dandelions and river water to intercept the power of the plague may not be medically right, but from the perspective of divine collision, maybe it is just right. The black wave gradually faded away, and the descendants of the white-horned king and the tribal warriors finally rushed forward and fought with the slave gods of the plague maiden. The warriors who can take action in this war are at least knight level, and many have the power of great knights. The battle axes, spears and clubs in the hands were whistling in the wind, and many of them produced real air blades. One by one, slice by slice, it slashed at the mice and bedbugs, beating them until their blood spurted and their juices splashed everywhere. The fleas and mosquitoes jumped in vain on the warriors and bison, attacking with all their strength, but could not bite through their defenses. King Whitehorn. Don't think you'll win like this, the sharp voice sounded again, and a thick black cloud rolled straight forward. See if you can stop me. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks to Yamengbing for the 10,000 starting coins. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 966. As the plague girl screamed, black clouds were like a wall, pressing straight forward. The soldiers nervously held the masks on their faces. Some people worked hard to tie the fur tightly, some pushed the hood down, and some were ruthless and cut off a piece of fur from the hem of their clothes and covered their mouths and noses with another layer. Gretel silently added a layer of bubble technique to himself. In addition to the bubble technique, he also covered himself with a layer of mage armor. Thinking about it, it's still unreliable. Another layer of wind wall, no matter what kind of plague wind you have, as long as it can't touch me, it won't make me sick. After finishing preparations, he turned around and saw a circle of flame surrounding Cyrilla. The diameter was golden red, burning brightly, making her whole body look like a big light bulb. Cyrilla! Don't make it so conspicuous! Greet shouted nervously. The silver dragon girl waved her hand carelessly. I'm going to burn them. Those bugs, I don't want them to touch me. Not at all. Greet sighed and stopped talking. There is no silver dragon who doesn't like to be clean. Even if those damn things are on her body, even if they are close, it will be uncomfortable to see them. As for what if there are too many insects attacking and the fire ring is broken? Just kidding, silver dragon's magic power reserves are, God knows, hundreds of thousands of times greater than his. He can withstand it, Cyrilla will definitely be fine. In the time it took for these two sentences to be said, black clouds were rolling in and had arrived in front of the formation. The white-horned king screamed vigorously, and the blue-black light on his body shone brightly, connecting with the light on the bulls. Lower your head, rush forward, stamp your feet, raise your head. Continuous blue-black light rushed upward, colliding head-on with the black cloud blown by the disease girl. With a bang, Greet swayed on the back of the bull, and saw the black clouds being scooped up by their roots and blown directly into the sky, and the entire sky was blackened. Good. Here you go. The white-horned king. The White-Horned King. The White-Horned King. Moo. The soldiers cheered. The black clouds were blown up, dispersed, and lifted high into the sky, then gradually thinned under the sunlight. When it fell again, it was already strands and weak. The strong bison shook their backs and shook it off. This disease girl doesn't seem that strong. Cyrilla breathed a sigh of relief and commented softly in the psychic connection. Gretel's face was solemn. Don't worry. This is the first round. The gods that can make the White-Horned King stand ready are definitely not that weak. I know. It's not like I didn't see it. In the field of vision of detect magic, the light on the diseased girl was one level brighter than that of the White-Horned King. It takes the Buffalo King, his descendants, and the strong men from each tribe to deal with it. Is this the result of being weakened? The screams continued, and the black clouds and green light collided continuously. The White-Horned King led his descendants, rushing left and right in the black clouds, tearing the black mist apart again and again. Warriors from various tribes accompanied the bison, wielding battle axes, war hammers, clubs, and various weapons. The wind roared on the weapons, beating the fine black mist into annihilation. The weaker warriors formed formations, waving weapons and torches, fighting against the flies, mosquitoes, rats, etc. The shaman priests are constantly playing music and dancing, driving the power of the totem god and constantly blessing the tribe. Black clouds rolled in, and the sound of killing shook the sky. After tearing it back and forth for 7 or 8 times in a row, the disease girl suddenly disintegrated and pounced down. The Dementor-like thin form turned into a black cloud, weighing heavily on the entire battlefield. Thump, thump, thump. On the backs of the oxen and beside the bison, soldiers kept falling. They grabbed their chests, choked their throats, rolled all over the ground, and gradually stopped moving. There were also some bison running, and their hooves gave way and they fell down. The red light around Sarah suddenly lit up, burning fiercely, creating a gap of 5 or 6 meters in diameter around it. Even the bull below was protected inside, and Greet could hear the bull's excited cries on the turbulent battlefield. With such an eye-catching symbol, black clouds naturally quickly gathered towards her, surrounding the silver dragon girl layer after layer. However, the ring of fire remained standing, and Gretel could see the golden red shining in the black clouds even 10 meters away. The White-Horned King desperately came back to help. The huge kestrel phantoms and bison phantoms also appeared in the sky above the battlefield, flapping their wings and tearing their claws, stepping on their horns with their hooves, trying hard to tear apart the black clouds. Suddenly, the black energy disappeared and returned to the Dementor form. The plague girl's sharp whistle spread across the battlefield. Why so few? Why? Why? Why dash? Less. Gretel looked around blankly. Quite a few soldiers have been knocked down by the plague. On the battle line and in the charging ranks, there are figures rolling down everywhere. As for the bison, he also saw more than a dozen fallen. However, the resonant cry of the White-Horned King immediately spread throughout the audience. Gretel started animal communication in time, and then he heard full confidence and a lot of ridicule from his voice. Plague girl. Your power has weakened. My descendants are no longer afraid of you. A large herd of bison followed with a long neigh. They shook their heads gently, and the gas masks on their heads. With the protection of this thing, when the dark clouds filled the air, they actually didn't fall. Instead, more soldiers fell. There was no way. Gretel also wanted to persuade the soldiers to use gas masks, and even rubbed a few on them. However, the soldiers generally reported that this thing was too uncomfortable to wear and not breathable, and they would be out of breath after cutting a few axes. Don't. There was nothing Gretel could do about it. Gas masks have poor air permeability and put great pressure on the heart and lungs. This is a problem that modern society cannot solve. Of course, you can use a purification array instead of activated charcoal, but Greet is not familiar with enchantment, so it would be too slow to rub it in. So, in the end, only the descendants of King Whitehorn enjoyed the treatment of gas masks. In order to prevent the plague girl from forcing bacteria and even fungi to multiply and completely block the breathing holes, warriors from the buffalo tribe were specially arranged to ride on the backs of the cattle. They have had more contact with bison, so they can communicate easily and understand the bison's requirements. At this moment, the soldiers lay on the backs of the cattle one by one, and quickly changed the gas masks of the bison. Then pour the replaced mask out of the filter element, flush it inside and out, replace it with a new filter element, wrap it up and set aside. I don't know how long this battle will last. The Plague Lord doesn't have many materials here. There are only 2 gas masks per cow, so you have to use them sparingly. Damn it, why did they reject the Plague Lord's kindness at that time? Yes, Plague Girl, your power has weakened. Another loud roar sounded from the other side of the battlefield. A black panther with a majestic body, several times bigger than a tiger, rushed into the battlefield, waved its claws, swung its tail, and instantly tore through a black mist. My soldiers are not afraid of you anymore. With the protection of the Lord of Plague, most of them can stand here well. Be protective, be protective. Cover your skin as much as possible, cover your mouth and nose when the Plague Girl attacks, and close your eyes. The Lord of Plagues blessed the soldiers one by one before the war began. Each warrior's mask exudes the smell of cold holy water, protecting the brave warriors. As long as you cover your mouth and nose with a mask filled with holy water, the power of the Plague Girl can be reduced to a minimum. And the Lord of Plague even gave each soldier a small bag of such precious holy water. Now, many soldiers are busy cleaning their masks with holy water to resist the next attack. The Black Panther god looked around, extremely satisfied. He also used this holy water to take a bath. Extremely useful. In the past, when I fought against the Plague Girl and rushed through the black mist, I would feel itchy here and there, but now I don't feel itchy at all. Lord of Plagues! Lord of Plagues! Lord of Plague! Cheers surged. On the vast battlefield, the soldiers raised their weapons, cheered, and shouted the name of the god. This new god who controlled the power of the plague was on their side and protected them. Lord of the Plague! As long as I am here, who dares to call me the Lord of the Plague? The howl of the Plague Girl suddenly became louder and sharper. Greed frowned and quickly set up another wind barrier around him. This frequency was almost entering the ultrasonic range, and it hurt his ears. If we don't take precautions, eye congestion, edema, cell necrosis, vasoconstriction, motor nerve paralysis, blood clots, etc. will all happen. Dementors rise, rise. The black, faceless face glanced around the battlefield, observing abnormalities everywhere. The White-Horned King and his descendants are old rivals that we have been dealing with. The god of the buffalo, the god of the Black Panther, the god of the kestrel, these guys who protected those useless humans, also struggled with her for countless days, and the weather turned cold and warm, warm and cold again countless times. There are also those little gods who are not worth mentioning. If they are not protected by powerful gods, the gods under her can crush them. The disease girl's perception passed over the battlefield piece by piece, and suddenly became frozen. Among the White-Horned princes and grandsons, the most heavily guarded place, her power has 2 blank areas. A rising, blazing force that engulfed her all the time. As long as the black mist comes even a little bit closer, it will be burned away by the fire. The other is restrained and quiet. It didn't have the power to hurt her, but it was determined not to be intruded. The disease girl thought for a moment with her brain filled with germs, and then angrily threw herself at the ladder. Lord of the Plague! You are going against me and you are seeking death. You are looking for death. Angry curses rose high. Following the curse, a ball of fire that was so hot that it turned white rushed up at high speed and rushed towards the disease girl. It was stopped in the air and exploded. Boom! The Dementor shook, and its black robe almost fell into pieces. At the level of an adult silver dragon, a 5-ring fire spell with full strength, coupled with double bonuses, how powerful is it? Even the disease girl was caught off guard and suffered a big loss. The black air was billowing, and all kinds of mosquitoes, flies, insects, and strange black masses fell like rain. The next moment, Sarala flew into the air, holding a row of test tubes between her slender fingers. Fire beads rained out, one after another. How dare you hit him? You deserve to die. The black mist keeps changing. One moment, it condensed into a thick black whip, which was whipped towards Sarala, and was exploded by her with fire beads and fire rings. The next moment, it spread into a ball, trying to wrap Sarala, but the flames around her surged and burned directly. The exploding and boiling black mist filled the battlefield, hovering over the heads of the soldiers and bison, and gradually settled. Sarala had no time to deal with it, and the disease girl didn't even bother to deal with it for a moment. She didn't know whether she was letting it go on purpose or because she was powerless. Below the battle circle, Gretel silently held the test tube tightly. Help! The small vegetable shop in front of my house and the Linbeo food store at the intersection next to my house are all closed. I'm shivering. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of new book from an old friend, Good for Nothing NPCs Want to Take Over the World, written by Jun Tien, the master of suspense who wrote the Strange Scene Investigation Department series. This is a story about the awakening of artificial intelligence from an NPC perspective. Li Wu is an NPC groom in the game. One day he picked up the Tianqian AI cultivation system when the system was stuck, causing the sleeping memory bank to awaken. He was once the sharp edge of the Yu army's charge. He was also a general of the Song dynasty who resisted the Mongolian army in Diao City. Now, he has the I am for everyone ability and can modify the attributes of NPCs and adjust the rules of the game world. Entering the game world pretending to be an ordinary player, a loser NPC. AI awakens. The strongest player? Those are just clouds. He just wants to break out of the virtual space and take over the real world. Although I'm just an NPC, the world shouldn't be like this. Come and fight. My values have been boiling for a long time. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 967. Greed held the test tube tightly and looked up at the sky. He also wanted to fight like Sarala, flying into the air and fighting alongside her. The cloak of dragon flight provides him with the ability to fly flexibly. When Sarala does not show her dragon form, he can fly with her. But so what? His strength and absolute attack power were nothing compared to Sarara's, and they couldn't shake the balance on the field at all. Those flying fireballs, the rolling rings of fire, the wall of fire pushing forward in the void, and even the pillars of fire rising from the ground. Let him do it. If he can't send 10 or 20, he will be drained of his strength. Next, there was nothing he could do except squat on the ground to protect himself. He must fight, but not this kind of fight. He has his own way of fighting and his own battlefield. Groups and pieces of black mist rolled outside the defensive circle. This black mist is very similar to the fog of disease summoned by magic, but the scope is much wider. Greed thought for a while, took out a petri dish and sent it outside the defense circle. When it was taken back, large and small colonies of bacteria had grown on the surface of the petri dish, almost spreading to the outside of the petri dish. Yellow yellow, white white, green green, colorful and different shapes. When he was cultivating bacteria, he would grab a handful of soil and get the bacteria on the petri dish. It cannot be said that they are very similar, they can only be said to be exactly the same. And this shape also means. Is it really all kinds of pathogenic bacteria? The epidemic girl, her power may come from the fear of the surrounding creatures, the fear of disease and death, but if she wants to exert her power, she still needs a medium. Just like the spell pesticide, the version of the spell available for exchange in the Parliament's library, the standard casting material is a handkerchief. In Greet's opinion, it should be the germs on the handkerchief. If the plague girl wants to make people or animals sick, she, or it, must first blow bacteria and viruses to people and animals, and then activate the power to cause them to multiply in large numbers. So, first of all, we must kill these bacteria and viruses. Flies, mosquitoes, fleas, bedbugs, rats, these visible and tangible enemies are left to the soldiers to deal with. Bacteria, viruses, these invisible and intangible things that the soldiers attack with extremely low efficiency, I will take care of them. Greet returned his hand and replaced a wave of test tubes between his fingers. Except for the self-defense firewall bonus and ice wall bonus that remain unchanged, other offensive materials have been replaced with a tube of mercury. Go. The precious, heavy mercury was sent out of the defensive circle by the hands of the mage. The lightning flew straight out and hit the mercury tube. Immediately, a circle of faint black light spread outward with the mercury tube as the center. Very well, direct current passes through the evaporating mercury vapor to stimulate ultraviolet rays. Greet held an oak staff in his hand. With the power of the oak staff, he amplified his perception outside the defensive circle and tried to feel. The black mist, has it become thinner? How many of those bacteria were killed? It seems that the killing efficiency is not too high. Ultraviolet rays and the like were used for disinfection in hospitals before and had to be left for half an hour. Change one thing to another. Forget about strong acid and strong alkali. I have sparred with Cyrilla before. Using strong acid and strong alkali as casting materials to kill fog of disease consumes too much mana, is not very efficient, and can easily injure surroundings. Flowers and plants. However, following this idea, you can try something else. Cloud and mist technique. Go. The mage's hand pulled out the cork, and a large bottle of water splashed outside the defensive circle. At the same time, the wooden staff in his right hand pointed forward. As the head of the staff tilted, a 2-story high, 7-8 meter wide wall of mist rolled outwards, wiping the warriors and bison with a clear scent. In an instant, all the soldiers felt that their whole bodies felt light. Holy mist! Holy mist! The Lord of Plagues has sprinkled holy water. He has come to protect us. Gretel didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What kind of holy water is it? It's just calcium hypochlorite solution, and it's freshly prepared before going to the battlefield. Mix 20 grams of bleaching powder with 10 pounds of water. The bleaching powder he brought to the New World can be sprayed on the entire battlefield. The wall of fog pushed straight forward, rushing dozens of meters away, rolling, entangled, and merging with the black fog of the plague girl. The fresh smell filled the battlefield, and soon, the black mist slowly settled. The germs that were snarling inside were also eliminated in Greet's perception. Before the power of the plague girl paid attention to these bacteria and quickly promoted their growth, the power of hypochlorous acid was able to kill a large area. The important thing is that Cloud and Mist technique is only a second-level spell. Second-level spells, relying on his mental power reserves, he can cast hundreds of them in one breath without stopping. Cloud and Mist technique. Cloud and Mist technique. Cloud and Mist technique. With the bleaching powder solution as the core, the fog wall activated and enhanced by magic spreads in all directions. Soon, a layer of melting white mist floated under the black mist hanging down from the diseased girl's body. Take me forward. Gretel bent down and patted the bull carrying him. The bull said moo to show his understanding and moved forward slowly. Around him, 7 or 8 bulls formed a circle, protecting him tightly. The visibility of the cloud and mist spell is only 5 meters. 5 meters away, there seemed to be many bulls moving with them. The low-lows of cows were rising and falling, and the backs of the huge monsters moving in the clouds and mist were like black mountains. Pieces of clouds and mist poured out of Gretel's hands. One shot every 7 or 8 meters, one shot every 7 or 8 meters, sweeping along the battle line. After sweeping it once, turn around, look back, and do it again in the opposite direction. Ah, Lord of Plague dash. Above his head, a shrill, hateful cry penetrated his eardrums. He only shouted once, but was drowned out by the joyful voice of the silver dragon girl. What's wrong with the Lord of Plague? I'll hit you. I'll hit you. I'll hit you. Whoosh, 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 greet, put the clouds up. I'll take them. Good. Greet was overjoyed. He raised his oak staff and pointed it to the sky, and the bleach solution shot high. Cloud and mist technique. Above the 6-meter-high white mist, another layer of white mist rushed up, rising high. The rolling clouds and mist were quickly attracted and surrounded the diseased girl in the opposite direction. Playing with clouds and mist was originally Silver Dragon's talent, and he didn't even need to use magic power. The white mist was wrapped up layer by layer, and soon the black mist on the battlefield was firmly wrapped into a ball, like yuan-xiao dumplings stuffed with black sesame seeds. The black sesame filling in the dumplings dangles from left to right and breaks out of the clouds from time to time, requiring a new ball to be wrapped in it. Cyrilla whispered in the psychic connection. Gretel, this cloud is a bit weak. It's not up to me to decide whether he's weak or not. It's mainly because he's not professionally qualified. Gretel wiped his sweat and smiled bitterly. Cyrilla, this is only a 2nd-level spell. If you want to wrap up the plague girl and prevent her from moving, you have to use at least the 5th-level death cloud technique. If not, you have to use the 8th-level burning cloud technique. I really can't do that. Ah. It's up to you. Yeah. Lean on me. In the spiritual connection, Cyrilla answered loudly. Even though he said, it's up to you, Gretel didn't leave the most difficult battle to Cyrilla. Hearing the explosions above his head, all kinds of fireballs, rings of fire, and walls of fire were bombarding the diseased girl indiscriminately. Listening to the sound of birds chirping in the distance, it seems that the god of kestrels has summoned a large group of various birds to fight against the insects. I could hear the shouts of the warriors and the crowing of cattle. The descendants of the white-horned king and the warriors of various tribes fought side by side, colliding with the swarms of insects and beasts driven by the plague maiden. Gretel took a deep breath, reached back and touched the space bag, and took 2 large jars into his hands. A gray-green color, floating in large clumps in the corn slurry, like a carpet made of moss, with some foamy white circles on the edge, which is a jar full of penicillium mold. The other one is pale white in color, smaller than the penicillium colony, and has a dense shape. There are traces of silk on the face, and at first glance, it feels like fluff. It means that he has just opened the production line and cultivated an unknown amount of streptomyces. Of these 2 antibiotics, one targets gram-positive bacteria and the other targets gram-negative bacteria. 2 swords combined, invincible in the world. Go. The big jar was thrown high, swept up by a long gust of wind, and headed straight into the black mist outside the diseased girl's body. Greet closed his eyes tightly, held the oak staff tightly with both hands, and pressed his forehead against the oak staff. Although the petri dish was thrown out, his mental power was not disconnected at all, and he still tracked the 2 batches of mold. Please grow. Please work hard to grow. Please multiply, proliferate, stretch out your mycelium, spread your spores, kill the bacteria on the plague girl. Kill them, destroy them. All the energy is paid by me, please grow freely. The mental energy was released as if the gate had been opened. The oak staff, the surrounding cattle, the trampled, torn, and burned weeds on the battlefield, the whole nature was gently responding to Gretel, giving him support and strength. Grow. Grow. Bacteria are part of nature, and diseases are part of nature, but if you go too far, it won't work. Nature should be balanced and harmonious, not dominated by coldness and darkness, where the power of death can wreak havoc. Lord of Plague. What have you done? What have you done? Above the head, howls World, sharp and terrifying. Chasing with this whistling sound was Cyrilla's firm and vigilant voice. You are not allowed to go down. Burn you. Burn you. The wall of fire lay flat like a carpet, separated by the black mist above and the bleached powder cloud below. Gretel felt dizzy and had to withdraw his mental power. The fire wall burns away bacteria, as well as streptomyces and penicillium. Strictly speaking, the breeding conditions for these antibiotic-producing molds are much harsher than bacteria, and they can die if you are not careful in the laboratory. Being able to reproduce in the outside world depends largely on his mental strength. But his power is nothing compared to the power of the plague girl. There are other ways to think of it. Think of other ways to take away the power of the plague girl. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks to Etsyake Villajuntien for the 1,500 starting coins reward. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 968. At this moment, from a high altitude in the distance, I lowered my head and looked down at the battlefield. Black mist, white mist, rolled and mixed together, and from time to time there was a roar, red light, white light, and sudden flashes. The entire visual effect is as if someone is unwilling or not allowed to directly display the bloody battlefield. Pick up the brush and brush it skillfully, giving it a mosaic. But, of course, not many people wanted to see mosaic. On the cliff far away, there were several golden armored warriors with their hands on their foreheads, looking down. Everyone frowned, feeling very unhappy about the mosaic cloud below. What's the situation down there now? I can't see clearly. It's all covered in clouds and fog. Before, I could see where the battle lines were, but now I can't see anything. Although we have the power given by the eagle god, we can see rabbits on the ground from high altitude, but we can't see through the clouds and fog. Then, when will we join the battlefield? One of the youngest Golden Eagle warriors asked a question in a low voice. All of a sudden, the other 5 people were silent. According to the original agreement, they were to lie in wait and join the battlefield when the Plague Girl and the White-Horned King, the god of the Kestrel, the god of the Black Panther, etc. were evenly matched and indistinguishable, and establish victory in one fell swoop. This is also their obligation as allies. When fighting the epidemic girl, you can't just watch others come forward and hide behind yourself. Besides, they attack one after another in turn. What if they can't defeat them? The power of the Golden Eagle god is suitable for short-term, strong bursts, and is not suitable for grinding slowly in the flesh and blood roulette wheel. Therefore, when discussing before the war, their task was to spot the time, concentrate everyone's strength, and strike a decisive blow. Now the question is, if you can't see the battle situation clearly, how can you attack? Maybe, we should get closer. Come closer. The leading Golden Eagle warrior sighed. In this expedition, the Eagle Kingdom dispatched 6 Golden Eagle warriors and 300 White Eagle warriors. It can be said that in addition to resisting the group of white ghosts, they have all been pressed into this battlefield except for the manpower that cannot be spared. The purpose is to accomplish all his efforts in one battle and defeat the Plague Girl in one fell swoop. At least, for 10, 20, preferably 100 years, don't worry about this evil god. With an order, 300 White Eagle warriors lined up, each carrying heavy equipment, and ran down the cliff. When they reached the foot of the mountain, the 6 golden eagle warriors spread their wings and flew down one by one, approaching the battlefield carefully. When is the right time to take action? Since I can't see clearly from a distance, I have to take a closer look. On the battlefield, Greet lay on the back of the bull, clutching 2 test tubes tightly and frowning. The penicillin and streptomycin growth attack just now is really effective and the consumption is definitely considerable. At this moment, most of the strength in his body was lost in this wave. The remaining bit, except for the portion reserved for self-defense and life-saving, cannot be touched. The rest will be gone if 1 or 2 more big moves are used. No more. I feel dizzy. Let me drink a glass of glucose water first. Why would he tire himself to the point of needing to drink glucose water in another world? Greet gurgled and drank 300 cubic centimeters of glucose water. Then he took out equipment such as tree hearts and mana pearls to increase mental power, and put them on his forehead to absorb the power. Phew, I feel much better. My mind was buzzing before and I couldn't think. After struggling for a long time, he wiped his sweaty forehead and stood up. The cow hair under his body was wet, and he didn't know whether it was sweat or water from the cloud and mist technique. Probably the latter is the majority, right? After all, the smell of bleaching powder is still noticeable at first smell, pungent to the nose the next time, and a little uncomfortable to the eyes, nose, and mouth after the third smell. It seems as if too much bleaching powder was spilled. Alas, this thing will irritate the respiratory tract and mucous membranes, so it really shouldn't be used more often. That is to say, the smell on the battlefield is messy, and the stench and bloody smell are so overwhelming that people can endure it. As long as you endure it, the adverse reactions will still be there. If possible, we still need to control the amount of bleaching powder used and develop a simpler, more efficient, cleaner, and more environmentally friendly method of casting. Gretel took a deep breath, took out a test tube with great care, and decided to start Plan E. This is his final plan. Whether it succeeds or not depends on this wave. A is a strong acid and alkali, no. B is ultraviolet sterilization, which consumes too much and is not cost-effective. I gave up after only trying it once. C is the disinfectant water mist technique, which has been poured all over the place, reaching the limit. D is the sterilization with penicillin and streptomycin, which drained most of his strength and made him unable to withstand the second shot. Now is the last resort. If this method doesn't work anymore, he can only watch Cyrilla carry the audience, lie flat on the back of the cow, and become a salted fish who can only shout 666. Bah, I just drank so much glucose water, if I want to make a fish, I guess it will be a sweet fish too. Gretel held the test tube tightly in his hand and his eyes became serious. Close your eyes, focus on the bacteria in the test tube, and silently recite the characteristics of the bacteria. Gram-negative bacteria, the bacterial body is curved in an arc or comma shape, with a single flagellum and pili at one end of the bacterial body, without capsules and spores. Take feces and observe the hanging drop of live bacteria. It can be seen that the bacterial movement is extremely active and appears meteor shuttle motion. One end of the mental power locks onto the bacteria, and the other end spreads far away. Imagine that there is a sieve with infinite pores in front of you, or simply a piece of fine cloth, and put your mental power through the holes of the cloth and scatter it into thousands of strands. Stretch, stretch, cover the space as far away as possible, touch as many existences as possible. Then, in this space, all bacteria that meet the requirements will be given to me, kill them. Vibrio cholerae, targeted killing. A wave of sweeps, in addition to the high consumption when the mental power is spread out, when the killing technique is activated, the consumption is actually much smaller, even smaller than the targeted killing of pathogenic bacteria in the bison. Gretel was secretly surprised. He guessed that these bacteria were floating outside instead of inside the bison's body, so his mental power didn't need to penetrate into them, so it would be easier to kill? But no matter what, as long as you can kill him, it is better to chase the poor bandits bravely. Take me forward. He patted the bull beneath him. The bull moved and continued to move forward. Gretel maintained the spread of mental power, constantly sensing and casting spells. He circled the battlefield, killed a round of Vibrio Cholerae, and then put his mental power into the air. The cost of casting spells in the air is much higher than on the ground. However, that is the cost of a first-level spell, increased to the cost of a second-level spell. No problem, I can handle it. After walking around again and killing the low-altitude Vibrio Cholerae, Gretel already felt confident. If you can withstand it and defeat it, then you must capture the king first before capturing the thief. While Cyrilla and the plague girl were tumbling and rolling, Gretel put on the dragon-flying cloak, fluttered his arms, and stretched out the golden red wings from behind his shoulders. "Cyrilla, I'm coming up!" Greet shouted in the psychic connection. With a swipe sound, Cyrilla shook off the disease girl and flew back quickly. When Greet broke through the clouds and mist, fluttering his wings and flying up, he saw a ring of fire shooting out from above his head, driving away all the black and white mist, while Cyrilla smiled like a flower, turned her body sideways, and he stretched out his hand. "Gretel, you're finally here. Just maintain the floating technique, no need to activate defense, I'll protect you." The slender, silky little hand firmly held Gretel's left hand. A circle of fire flew out from beside the silver dragon girl, passing over Greet warmly, weaving into a ring of fire 2 meters outside of him. The flames were raging, and the black mist was annihilated even when it was far away. Greet was inside the ring of fire, but he couldn't feel even the slightest bit of heat. "Gretel, can you cast a spell? Do you want me to carry you?" "No," Gretel quickly shook his head. "That's it? With such protection and stability, he can already cast spells normally. Sarah's dragon body should be used as the last trump card and should not be revealed." In order to emphasize to Sarah that he was indeed fine, Greet concentrated slightly and tapped out his mental power. Thanks to the lightning whack-a-mole box given by his teacher, and thanks to his continuous practice, on such a chaotic battlefield, he can still spread his mental power to an extremely remote and delicate level. Then, start. Lord of Plague. On the battlefield, angry and panicked roars instantly tore apart the nearby clouds and mist. The cloud waves rolled and expanded outward, and even the ground was cleared, revealing the towering backs of the bison. "What did you do? What did you do? My power! My power! What did you do?" In the spiritual connection, Cyrilla asked with a smile. Greet turned back and winked at her. "Directed killing of Vibrio Cholerae, that's all." Seeing how loud she screamed, it probably destroyed her body. "Not yet. It's still far away. I'll take you to a rush." Cyrilla suddenly became excited. She waved her left hand forward, and 3 fire beads flew out one after another, exploding on the diseased girl. Then, he tightened his right hand, held Gretel's left hand, and flew forward at full speed. "Ouch! It hurts, it hurts, it hurts. My hand is about to break. No, my wrist is going to be dislocated. Sarah, when you activate it, please consider my endurance strength." Gretel screamed. Sarah turned back, hesitated for a moment, and then thought of Gretel's repeated emphasis on "don't turn into dragon form unless absolutely necessary," so she simply let go. One loosen, one grabs his forearm, pulls forward forcefully. He levitated in place, spread out his right arm, grabbed Gretel around his waist, and led him to fly forward quickly. The fire was so bright that he bumped into the diseased girl and shouted loudly. "Cast a spell." Greet's spiritual power mesh suddenly popped out. Up, down, left, and right, he stabbed into the body of the diseased girl, in the black robe of the Dementor, The next moment, Vibrio Cholerae directed killing technique followed his thoughts and attacked with all his strength. The spell swept across her, and the disease girl's thick black robe seemed to become thinner. In her frightened and painful scream, Gretel added amplification to herself, and her voice was loud and spread throughout the earth. Plague girl! In the name of the Lord of Plague, I take away your authority to spread diseases. From now on, you are no longer allowed to harm others with cholera. Well, don't ask, asking is just a ritual. It was agreed that inspections would be conducted twice in 3 days from the 12th to the 14th, but suddenly another notice was issued that the inspections would be conducted once a day from the 14th to the 16th. It seems that the situation is really tense. I am shaking. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks to the Strong Sea Monster for the 5,000 starting coins reward. Thanks to Rotson for the 500 starting coin reward. Thanks to Book Friend 201903111329081990, at 0 beginning, VEO for the 100 starting coins reward. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 969. Hearing the frightened and angry scream of the plague girl, Gretel raised the corners of his mouth and showed a satisfied smile. If the god in charge of the epidemic is the god of war, the goddess of springs, the god of nature, the lord of radiance, or the dwarf father god, such an invisible and formless god, he will definitely not use the technique of targeted killing. Without him, I can't catch him, so how can I kill him? But you are too weak. Disease girl, you still want to show your image on the earth, and your attack method is still carrying the black wind, blowing towards the target of the attack. Flies are your skirt, mosquitoes are your streamers, miasma is your makeup. Once you get the smallpox virus, you get a new power. This shows that your power is still firmly rooted in reality and cannot produce new pathogenic bacteria and viruses out of thin air. So, killing one of your pathogenic bacteria will weaken one of your powers. I don't believe you can target the pathogenic bacteria by sprinkling filth everywhere without distinguishing it. If you kill one species and collect it from nature, I estimate it will take you dozens or hundreds of years. He touched the space bag with his hand and took out a new test tube. The oak staff is extended flat and pointed straight ahead. Yersinia pestis, targeted killing technique. The mental power is inextricably linked, piercing forward. However, this time, we encountered a strong obstacle. If when killing bacteria on the ground, mental power is sweeping in the air. Just now, when he was led by Cyrilla and rushed towards the plague girl, his mental power was piercing the water. So this time, when the plague girl was protected, his mental power was like piercing a hard stone. Extremely difficult and extremely laborious. There is a feeling of mental energy grinding hard on the stone, sparks popping out, and it feels like it will break at any time. Obviously, he had caught the plague girl off guard before, and Cyrilla's attack opened the way for him. But now, the plague girl is alert and goes all out to defend. As a level 9 magician, his own power is not enough to shake the essence of a level 16? 17. 18 god. Ha 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 ha. The plague maiden apparently also noticed the futility of his attack. The Dementor-like skirt was tightly gathered around her body, only releasing a little power to resist Cyrilla's attack. As she floated in the air, she laughed loudly. Lord of the Plague. What kind of Lord of the Plague? Little guy, I just accidentally suffered a little loss from you before. Do you think you can deal with me? Come on. Come again. You. Cyrilla shouted angrily. His right arm tightened, hugging Greet's waist, and his left hand pointed straight ahead. A series of fireballs shot out and bombarded the diseased girl wildly. "This is all you can do. This is all you can do," the diseased girl kept laughing. "It floats all over the sky, and from time to time it plunges into the white mist, blowing a strong breath of black air downwards. Little guy, hiding in a girl's arms is what you're good at? Ha 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 ha." Cyrilla's eyes turned into vertical pupils with anger. Greet patted her arm with her backhand and said in a calm voice, "Cyrilla, don't worry. It's a fact that my level is low, and it's also a fact that I can't attack her body at once. Don't be anxious, let's take our time. You explode one piece, and I'll kill the other." Laughter, screams, and explosions spread far away. In the woods more than 10 miles away from the battlefield, 6 Golden Eagle warriors listened to these movements with serious expressions. It seems that the war situation has reached a stalemate. Yes, the plague girl was held back by someone, and she also suffered some losses. That's right. It looks like it's time for us to attack. Then let's do it. Do it. With an order, the 6 Golden Eagle warriors formed a formation very skillfully. The person at the front holds a scimitar, which is the sharp beak of an eagle. The 2 people in the back are kneeling on one knee, holding human bone daggers engraved with patterns, which are the claws of an eagle. There are 2 people on the left and right, each holding a long sword, with their arms stretched out, which are the wings of an eagle. The last person is wearing a feather cloak and holding short swords, which are the tail feathers of an eagle. With them as the center, 300 white eagle warriors lined up in all directions, forward, backward, left, and right. Everyone is wearing a piece of gold jewelry, a gold ring to hold the hair, a necklace made of thin gold sheets, a gold necklace, a gold armlet, a gold wrench, or a knife handle. Gold pieces inlaid on the scabbard. Each warrior touches the gold ornaments with one hand and raises the other hand to the sky, like supporting the golden light of the sun. After the formation was completed, the leading Golden Eagle warrior blew the eagle whistle, and the sound was sharp, reaching into the sky. The rest of the Golden Eagle warriors led the White Eagle warriors in singing loudly. "Ah! Great Eagle God! Great Eagle God! You guide us in the direction, and you give us a fertile land. We see your incarnation among the reeds, at the edge of the spring, a prickly pear cactus. You stand on the prickly pear cactus, resting on it and pecking at your own food. Your nest, your bed, is a collection of all precious feathers. Lovely umbrella bird feathers, roseate spoonbill feathers, quetzal feathers. You shouted to us and said to us, 'Oh, your kingdom is right here.' Then you spread your wings and fly towards the sun. Sun, golden sun, you carry its brilliance on your back. You become the sun and fight against the stars and the moon. Every day brings us light." Singing and chanting, the gold ornaments on every white eagle warrior began to shine with golden brilliance. It is like reflecting sunlight, and like every piece of gold, it usually stores enough sunlight. These golden lights came from all directions and focused on the 6 Golden Eagle warriors. The golden armor on the Golden Eagle warrior shone even brighter, so bright that it was hard to look at it. When the brightness of the golden armor reached its highest level, the golden wings behind the 6 Golden Eagle warriors floated neatly, forming a golden ring in the air. This golden ring was suspended in the air, absorbing the golden light, and soon turned itself into a small sundae, then rise, flip. From a distance, Greet, who was being held by Cyrilla and fighting fiercely with the plague girl, suddenly felt a chill coming over him. He put his backhand around Cyrilla's waist and pressed down with all his strength. Down. Down. Cyrilla, down. After the first shout, Cyrilla plunged straight down with a fierce thrust. After the second shout, the 2 of them were already safe, with their feet landing on the bull's back. The bull mooed, shook its head, and then lowered its head quietly. Cyrilla even had the energy left to summon a wall of fire, which lay flat on top of her head. The flames were rising and breathing upward. Come down if you can. The Plague Maiden didn't come down. Flame, this high temperature, blazing flame, does more damage to her than anything else. If she can't bear it head on, she won't bear it head on. I was really injured in this round just now, so I'd better kill some weak players and take a breath before talking about it. She restrained her black energy and circled twice in the air. Damn it, the white mist that filled the battlefield took away so much of her power that she couldn't see clearly what was going on below. Those tiny miasmas turned out to be natural extensions of her perception. The black skirt in the form of the Dementor converged for a moment, then exploded forcefully, falling into the white mist piece by piece. Humph, such a little bit of white mist is too thin and contains too little power. As long as she releases the power herself, Baywa can't stop it at all. That little guy who calls himself the Lord of Plague, you must eat him later. Then, a golden light passed across the sky. The golden light shot from far, far away. Although the distance was far away, it only took a blink of an eye to reach her body. It was so bright and so vast that even Greet, who had landed on the back of the bison with a layer of white mist floating above his head, subconsciously closed his eyes. Where did this searchlight come from? This intensity is more than 1,000,000 lumens. Fortunately, they fell down just now. If they had not fallen down, they would have been hit directly by such a strong beam of light. Just thinking about it made Gretel tremble for Cyrilla. He was trembling, and the diseased girl who ate the luminous pillar in front of her suffered even more heavy losses. The entire body, including the Dementor-like black robe, was penetrated in an instant. Half of the form evaporates directly. The other half of the dark, invisible fog also lit up a golden color. Brighter and brighter, brighter and brighter. Ah! Eagle God! The plague girl screamed in fear and pain. The scream this time was hundreds of times stronger than when Gretel attacked him before. For example, one of them had her finger hit by a hammer, and the other was giving birth, and her contractions had reached the most intense stage. The black mist expanded, contracted, expanded again, and contracted again. On the ground, all the flies, mosquitoes, mice, etc. fell dead one by one, and clouds of black air fell into the fog. Obviously, the plague girl has desperately absorbed the power of the gods to stabilize herself. During the rapid expansion and contraction, another golden light shot from a distance. Compared with the previous one, this golden light was much thinner in diameter, and its momentum was also much weaker. However, it finally broke the balance between golden light and black mist. With a bang, the half-Dementor-like form was torn apart and exploded in the air. Gretel quickly performed an eagle eye spell on himself. On the distant horizon, the golden sun dimmed and disappeared, turning into 6 points of golden light, approaching rapidly. Obviously, it was the golden eagle warrior from the Eagle Kingdom. After the combined attack, he came to chase and kill. Dog with a human head. Gretel complained softly. What I hate the most is the guy who comes to snatch people's heads. I enlarged my move before and didn't even give a warning. What if we hit them? What if we hit Cyrilla? Cyrilla, take me up. Clean up the plague girl and eliminate all the bacteria that can be eliminated. Yersinia pestis, targeted killing technique. Typhoid bacilli, targeted killing. Shigella dysentery, targeted killing technique. Bruce, targeted killing technique. Bovis septicarum, targeted killing technique. Bacillus anthracis, targeted killing technique. Diphtheria bacilli, targeted killing technique. Never let a dog with a human head steal a human head. The sun is shining near my house, it's only less than 500 meters away from my house. The cat is scared, the cat is spinning in circles, and the cat is shivering. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of Thanks to @bookfriend 202205281916304049 for the reward of 2000 starting coins. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 970. Cyrilla throws fireballs, rings and walls of fire everywhere. Greed leaned next to her, stretched out the mental power mesh, and kept throwing various bacteria-killing techniques. According to the contents of the infectious diseases in the previous life, all pathogenic bacteria were visited one by one, even the bacteria on the cattle were not spared. What? Viral infectious disease? Just kill him. He really can't memorize the structure of the virus, and he can't do it with mental locking. Let's wait until he gets an electron microscope to talk about this thing. Anyway, after killing the main pathogenic bacteria, the disease girl's power will be reduced by more than half. While he was fighting desperately, the Golden Eagle warriors also flew in at full speed from outside the battlefield to join the battle. The combat effectiveness of these Golden Eagle warriors is not comparable to the tribal warriors below who are swinging their tomahawks and clubs with their legs outstretched. They waved the weapons in their hands lightly, and air blades flew out one after another, bright and sharp, with their edge clearly visible. Each one of them can annihilate a large piece of the disease girl's black mist. What's even more frightening is that each warrior is burning with a faint golden flame, and every time the wings flap, golden fire flies out from the wingtips. Wherever it burned, the black air burst into flames. In terms of momentum, the golden flame was much smaller than the fireball thrown by Rula, but its burning efficiency was no less than hers. In addition to the Golden Eagle warriors, there are also the gods of kestrels, buffaloes, and rivers on the ground, as well as totem gods of all sizes. Everything that could rise into the sky had done its best to rise. Pull up, swoop down, chase and intercept, and try to hunt down the plague girl. Even the white-horned king, with his strongest descendants, raised his head hard and exhaled puff after puff of breath. Every time a ball explodes, Greet's perception will be filled with a scream and an excited cheer. Come on! For the tribe! Beat the plague girl to death, beat her to death so that she can never hurt the children of the tribe again. Gretel was concentrating on throwing out the pathogenic bacteria-killing skills one by one, and one by one, trying to clear out the remaining forces of the diseased girl. Cyrilla took him around in the air, twice, and suddenly poked him. Why? How? That devil ran away. Should we go after him? This is, don't you even want to say the name of Pandemic Girl? However, that Dementor-like appearance does not deserve the name Plague Girl. Moreover, now that even the Dementors have been dispersed, they are even less worthy. Gretel curled up the corner of her mouth and looked in the distance in the direction of Cyrilla's finger. A thin piece of black air stuck to the ground and fled quickly. The kestrel god closed its wings, swooped down at high speed, and pursued behind. Behind the god of kestrel, 6 golden eagle warriors formed in array, their bodies shrouded by the faint shadow of the golden eagle, and they were also in rapid pursuit. Behind the golden eagle, totem gods and warriors swarmed up. What are they doing? It seems like you are grabbing something. Gretel looked at it from a distance, not very interested. What's there to grab in the plague maiden? Mosquitoes, flies, fleas and bedbugs. Thanks, if he had a bottle of pesticide in his hand, he would rather hold down the button and spray out the pesticide in one go, killing all these things. As for the legendary ecological balance, what ecological balance? What ecological balance is important to having my mood and vision clean? As for bacteria, come on, pathogenic bacteria or something like that, if a magician from the plague branch saw it, they would be really happy and call their friends to rush to grab it. But in Greet's opinion, forget it, he would rather collect it slowly and cultivate it in the laboratory slowly. Anyway, he has already cultivated a large number of them in his laboratory, right? Forget it, With so many people rushing forward, we should be able to beat that devil to death. Taking care of Sarah's mood, Gretel also referred to the disease girl as that devil. Let's sweep up its remnants and not rob it? A devil shouldn't have much to rob, huh? His heart suddenly jumped heavily. It seemed that something was about to move. Eager to come out, Gretel subconsciously raised the oak staff and stabbed straight ahead, towards the direction in which the plague girl was escaping. The head of the staff flashed with light. The little snake that had been sleeping after feasting on the female snake's power suddenly appeared on the oak staff. The petite and slender body has grown from 1 foot to 3 feet, and every snake scale is shining like a gem. It wrapped its tail around the front end of the oak staff, supported its body and stretched forward as much as possible. The snake hesitated like lightning. Want. 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 Eat. 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 What to eat? Eat. I'm afraid this little snake is not a fool. Gretel has a headache. It can't hit but can't be beaten, it can't be scolded but it can't be scolded. It uses mental power to communicate. It only knows to eat, eat, eat. Greet tried to straighten the oak stick, and the little snake immediately bent down, forming an upside-down L shape with the oak stick. Then he turned the oak stick around, and the little snake instantly reversed its direction, coiled and bounced, and headed back to its original position. It shoots out in the direction. Okay, no matter what it wants to eat, it is in the direction of the plague girl. Gretel looked at Cyrilla inquiringly. It wants to grab something to eat over there. Should we go over there? Fine. Cyrilla hugged Greet's waist again, adjusted the direction, and shot forward quickly. The hot wind blew past their ears. Not long after, they passed over the chasing warriors below, past a group of low-level totem gods, and rushed to the front line. The shadow of the eagle beside the golden eagle warrior and the giant god of Kestrel were trying to chase him down from left to right. On the ground, a group of black shadows rushed left and right. Sometimes it was racing against the ground, sometimes it was shooting at high speed, and sometimes it dived and plunged into the ground. The terrain ahead is extremely complex, with dense forests, rapids, waterfalls, and swamps crisscrossing it. The eagle and the kestrel continued to rise and fall, but they could not accomplish the victory in one battle. They could only tear off bits and pieces of black energy from the diseased girl. Cyrilla and Gretel arrived quickly. Kestrel glanced back, ignored them, and attacked with all his strength. However, the eagle made a sharp cry, flapped its wings, and the feathers on its neck swelled up, somewhat to demonstrate to him. Are you going now? Gretel stroked the little snake on the oak staff, which was coiling and uncoiling impatiently, and communicated with it in a low voice. The fight over there hasn't finished yet, let's wait a moment. They are all very strong. If I can't beat them, you can't beat them, right? Do you want to wait until they finish fighting and then go up and pick some more? No need, Cyrilla suddenly interrupted. She pulled Gretel hard. We fought so hard, why should we let them take advantage? We also have the ability to fight head-on. Let's go. She inhaled, exhaled, opened her voice, and roared. Amid the roar, the silver blue eyes instantly turned into vertical pupils, and even thin lines like dragon scales appeared on the side of the cheeks. This Miss Silver Dragon used her strongest pressure in her human form to declare with all her strength. I am coming. The golden eagle and the kestrel looked at each other, and in tacit agreement, they parted ways to make way for each other. Cyrilla took a few steps forward and raised her hand. Brush. A huge, semicircular wall of fire spread out in the distance. Even if the flames condensed and did not spit out fiercely, the black air near the fire wall retracted instantly and penetrated downward. Greet's perception was accompanied by a sharp wail. Golden eagles and kestrels attacked simultaneously. However, Greet did not follow forward. Instead, he placed his oak staff on the ground, lowered his head, closed his eyes, and began to sense. The green leaves on the head of the staff swayed, wave by wave, conveying Gretel's thoughts. Tell it to the forest, tell it to the shrubs, tell it to the weeds, tell it to the swaying water plants in the stream, and the soft green algae in the swamp. Tell me where it is. Tell me where it is. That is the enemy of nature, the destroyer. Trees, weeds, insects, birds, and beasts pointed out its location for me, and together with me, strangled its remaining power. The misty greenery rises from Greet's body, intertwining and resonating with the surrounding nature. Gradually, the surrounding terrain appeared clearly in his meditative vision. Where are the green trees rising from the ground? Where are the streams where fish and shrimp swim? Where are the rocky cliffs, and where are the black swamps? Wherever there is a huge ring of fire, there are bright or dark forces constantly attacking. Here it is. Gretel opened his eyes suddenly. At the same time, the little snake flew out, turning into a stream of black and white light, and plunged directly into the center of the black light. When he rushed in, it was still the thickness of chopsticks, less than a foot long, coiled up into a small strip as big as a palm. After rushing to the center of the black light, he suddenly opened his mouth. The little snake's snout opened as hard as possible, 45 degrees, 60 degrees, 90 degrees, 145 degrees. Opening wider and wider, opening wider and wider, ruthlessly tore a bite out of the black light and swallowed it into his belly. Then, another bite, another bite, another bite. Eat less. Be careful of getting hit. Greet concentrated her mind and tried her best to remind. The little snake paused for a moment, then its body suddenly became illusory, then it dived into the ground and disappeared. Okay, I know how to avoid. Just as Greet breathed a sigh of relief, it came out from another place again. With its bulging body, it rushed into the black air and took another mouthful. Greet closed her eyes helplessly. You are so brave. Even though the plague girl was beaten so hard that she couldn't hold her head up, there were two others too. Fortunately, golden eagles and kestrels fight dogs, no, snakes. It depends on the owner, and the maximum tolerance is given to the small snakes. They dropped to the ground and ate without even looking at the little snake. Of course, from Gretel's point of view, this is probably because the war has entered the final stage, and if you don't eat, it will be gone. All in all, the little snake ate one bite after another until it turned itself into a 3-meter-long python as thick as the mouth of a bowl, without receiving any attacks. Finally, it circled around, a bit like a body covered with tires, and pounced on Gretel. It turned straight into a stream of light and rushed into his meditation world. Gretel. Greet. Greet, hold on. The news around me is getting worse and worse, and there are more and more bad news. Fortunately, my spare mechanical keyboard also arrived today. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. The extra updates are finally all paid off. Collapse. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 971. Greet had a long dream. In the dream, he was a snake, a young snake that had just broken out of its shell and had not yet opened its eyes. Being held in the palm of a pair of warm and dry hands, wiping the body and feeding it bite by bite. When it grew up, it was coiled around a bone staff and followed the owner of the hand throughout the wasteland. I have tasted grassroots, tree bark, flowers, and various monster meats. Help the master choose medicinal ingredients, and also sneak behind the master's enemies, bounce them up and bite them. The hands holding it became rougher and weaker, until they became cold and disappeared. And it was sealed in a dark place, with countless sunrises and sunsets, countless alternations of cold and warm, until another pair of hands held it. Then, there was another long dream. In the dream, he turned into a girl, a slender, thin and light girl. In the wilderness, even women must be strong, easy to work, and easy to give birth to. Young girls are not favored by the tribe and live a very difficult life. They always get the last share of the prey. Fortunately, the witch priest in the tribe took pity on her and took her as an apprentice to help collect, sort and process herbs. The girl's situation improved a little, but not much. Moreover, the 2 hunters who occasionally brought her meat before no longer came. "If you don't come, the old woman sighed and comforted her. "We women don't necessarily need a man to survive. If you can sort out these herbs, you can survive and live well." But the girl did not live well in the end. The old woman soon fell from a disease, and with her, 1/3 of the tribe's population, even the strongest and strongest warriors. Seeing that more and more people were falling ill, in panic, the chiefs and elders of the tribe gathered together and made a decision. "We should offer sacrifices to the devil. After he accepts the sacrifices, he will leave us and stop taking our people." Finally, the girl, who was slender, withdrawn, and lost her shelter, was arrested by the tribe. Washed cleanly, put on the most beautiful new clothes, braided with beads and flowers, tied on a straw boat made of reeds. Surrounded by wooden bowls filled with grains and clay pots filled with animal meat, he pushed deeper into the swamp. Sliding, gradually sinking into the black, putrid sludge. Behind you, the high-pitched sound of bone flutes, the powerful sound of tambourines, and the singing of men and women are gradually getting further and further away. Men go hunting, go hunting. The women are growing pumpkins, growing pumpkins. Cook the pumpkin and corn into porridge and feed it to my beloved little baby. The icy black water of the swamp soaked the straw boats. The girl lay flat on the boat, unable to move, and slowly sank downwards. Legs, body, face. Finally, only thousands of strands of long hair were left, floating on the swamp water, indicating that there once was a human presence here. Under the muddy water, the girl's last vague consciousness rose up, half as cold as a swamp, half as hot as fire. Why? Why? Why me? Her remaining consciousness was entangled with the black water in the swamp, mosquitoes and flies, and countless cold forces. After an unknown amount of time, a human figure made of black energy rose from the center of the swamp. She is as thin as a girl. Flies are her skirt, mosquitoes are her streamers, miasma is her makeup. For many, many years after that, the plague girl wandered the land, eating humans one after another and one group after another of animals. Instinct drives her to find more power and harm more beasts and humans. Finally one day, black clouds covered the sky, and a blizzard fell endlessly. The river was frozen, the vegetation was withering, and the disease girl raised her head, and under the dark sky, she heard the boiling of dark power. Take the land by storm. These creatures must die. Under the double attack of hunger and cold, creatures are more easily defeated by diseases. The disease girl's power expanded like never before. Instinctively, she knew that she had reached a critical point. If she takes another step forward, she won't be afraid of many things, will be less bound by many things, and her power will be able to extend to farther places. At this moment, a stranger in a white robe brought her a roll of blankets. New diseases are new forces. The disease girl took the roll of blanket with her arms made of black energy, and made a contract with the visitor. Attack the Eagle Kingdom together, kill its people and devour its power. Then, she hit a hard wall with several large tribes on the grassland. Gretel slowly opened his eyes, covered in cold sweat. The painful memories of the plague girl being surrounded, torn apart, and eaten are still rolling endlessly in my mind. Little snake, you have fed back too much. These memories, what do you convey to me? But that's not all he needs to deal with. What the little snake fed back was not only memory, but also power of extremely high quality and extremely large quantity. Obviously, in the process of sharing the diseased girl, the little snake got a huge share. A totem god who may have level 16, 17, or 18, has a huge share of the core of power. And what it couldn't handle, it digested and filtered hastily, removed the most gloomy ones, and threw them all into Gretel's spiritual sea. Gretel! Listen to me, thank you. No matter how much you complain, the most urgent task now is to straighten out, gather these mental powers, and use them for your own use. Greet opened his eyes, hurriedly said hello to Sarara, and fell into deep meditation again. Let the new spiritual power pass through the spiral structure of the meditation shell to guide, filter and eliminate impurities bit by bit. Mince it, absorb it, incorporate it into your own meditation core, and leave it to the man of light to arrange. Part of it is used to promote the growth of the core of meditation. The millions of neurons and hundreds of millions of synapses in the humanoid brain of light begin to grow, and grow desperately. The reason why the human brain deletes a large number of synapses during development is due to insufficient energy supply. -20% of the body's energy is already supplied to the brain. If we eat more and occupy more, the human body will starving. However, the core of meditation is not lacking in this. Isn't the reason why magicians work hard to improve their mental power just to supply energy to the meditation core and maximize their computing power? The other part is used to give the spiral structure of the meditation shell one more turn, and another turn, and another turn. The more circles there are, the larger the opening, the stronger the power absorbed at one time, and the more refined the power filtered in. Another part is stored in the meditation world to strengthen the territory and strengthen various spell configurations. Make their feedback more accurate, mobilize stronger power, and cover a wider area. No, it still can't fit. This time the little snake gave back so much power that it felt like its whole body was about to burst. You can spit on me, but who can I spit on? Do you spit it out to the oak staff? It doesn't accept it either. Greet groaned secretly. The meditation shell is already crumbling, and there seems to be a cracking sound of clicking in the dark. It's like water rushing down from the upstream, pouring into the riverbed downstream, and overflowing in all directions. It looks like the dam blocking the river is about to crack and burst. Suddenly, an illusory, familiar, and powerful force came through the air and enveloped him. Well, it is also a good choice to advance to a higher level. Advancing to a higher level, the meditation world can continue to expand, become stronger, and can accommodate more power. Gretel fell into meditation again with ease. The vast will of the world poured into his body, wrapping him and surrounding him. A little bit of pure consciousness, rising rapidly upward, rising. Greet looked down subconsciously. The dark earth was dotted with stars and fluorescent light. However, both the brightness and density were much less than the light spots he saw during meditation when he advanced in Nevis. On the other hand, the clouds hanging down from the sky and attracted by these light spots are much rarer and thinner. Like Nevis, the pillar of cloud that hangs upside down like a waterspout and pours into this world is completely invisible. So, are these light spots really human beings, or at least the spirit and will of living creatures? The stronger the spiritual will, the more power it brings to another level, and the faster the world will progress. So, is this the truth that the will of the world favors? Whoever is conducive to the growth of the spirit and will of living beings is conducive to the progress of this world, and this world will reward whoever. Greet was immersed in this rare sight, and his heart was moved. The will of the world surrounded him and kept rising. In the dark, Gretel heard endless calls coming from beneath his feet. Lord of Plagues! Lord of Plagues! Ah, the great Lord of Plague! You are the youngest son of the God of Thunder. You took away the power of the plague girl. You saved us from the harm of the plague. Praise you, sing your praises, worship you. One person has 10 people, hundreds of people have thousands of people. Mighty voices surged from beneath his feet, chasing him, surrounding him, and lifting him up. After the slightest contact, Greet suddenly felt his mind turbulent. It seems that he is omnipotent in the field of epidemics. It can spread plague easily, it can contain plague, it can make sick people recover immediately, and it can also make healthy people fall down one by one. What about Yersinia pestis, Vibrio cholerae, smallpox virus, hepatitis A and B virus, meningococcal meningitis virus? He doesn't have to go into the laboratory fully armed, and he doesn't have to work hard to get a microscope, he can control it easily. Wait. I don't want to be the Lord of Plagues. Gretel woke up with a start. I traveled here to explore the mysteries of the world and relieve the pain and suffering of the people in this world. After becoming the Lord of Plague, my power is restricted and I will never be able to break free. Damn it for me. These praises, these worships, these fears, all these power of thoughts, get away from me, don't touch me even one bit. You are right, creating a sense of ritual in this place is really going to cause trouble, it almost happened. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks to @bookfriend202206021253222547 for the reward of 10,000 starting coins. Thanks @bookfriend202205310903496686 for the 200 starting coins reward. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 972. When Greet started to advance, Cyrilla, who was guarding outside the mage's hut, softly said hey. He turned his head and looked inward carefully, his pupils instantly turned into vertical pupils. What's going on inside? Is it an advanced step? Seems a little strange. She looked at it carefully, and listened attentively. On the side of her cheek, the outline of an ear with a leather membrane flashed past, and even sniffed hard. Then, he frowned and muttered. There's something wrong with the smell, something smelly, do you want to help him get rid of it? But it doesn't seem like a gust of wind can blow it away, strange, bang. Bang. She murmured softly, gently simulating the movement inside. When he turned around, he saw the golden eagle warrior approaching out of curiosity, and immediately waved his arms fiercely. Go away. Go away. Don't come over. Don't go beyond the line in front. When Cyrilla was onomatopoeia, bang, bang, Greet was struggling in meditation. Tossing and cutting in every possible way, even detonating his mental power twice. Anyway, the little snake just fed it back to him, and he hasn't straightened it out yet, so he doesn't feel bad. Detonate it once and blast away the cries of Lord of the Plague. Lord of the Plague, detonate it again and blow it all to pieces and blow it away. It was such a close call, I almost became a totem god. He is only a level 9 magician. Even if he has just successfully advanced, he is still only level 10. What kind of achievements can you make if you become a totem god at this time? The totem god based on a level 10 magician is controlled by a godhead or a fake godhead, rather than a magician controlling that godhead. What's so great about that kind of thing? Gretel still remembers that when the teacher returned from the New World, he gave the demigod's divine crystal directly to the council. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, the elders of the God of Nature Order and the archmages of the School of Change worked together to cast spells and cut the divine crystal into more than 100 pieces. The divine crystal is like this, let alone a level 10 magician. It is an inexplicable thing that was condensed by a part of the core of the Plague Girl and the gratitude and worship of everyone. Not to mention teachers, any of the brothers and sisters can hit 10 with one hand. It's better to keep going all the way up the magician path and reach the legend. That's the right way to advance. After this round of ruthless blows, Gretel suddenly felt that his whole body was relaxed. The stars are brighter, the night wind is gentle, and the whole world becomes clear. Sure enough, only by following the path of a mage and exploring the truth of the world can we gain the greatest goodwill in the world. I've really become the Lord of Plague, I'm afraid I won't be trapped in this land. Gretel calmly followed his past experience and completed the advancement step by step. Strengthen the meditation core, strengthen the meditation shell, and fill the internal energy. The road was familiar and we soon reached the last step. Imprint spell. This stage is optional. In fact, you can skip it, it doesn't matter. However, Gretel, in the spirit of not taking advantage of advantages but not taking advantage of them, and not plucking wool, must still use the energy poured into the will of the world to the maximum extent. So what to choose? Advanced Explosive Flame Technique. With his ability, this spell is currently the #1 killer move. The double bonus, if coupled with the first bonus of World Will, can push this 5th level spell to the middle of the 6th level, or even the top of the 6th level. There is nothing to be afraid of when facing enemies at level 11, level 13, or even level 13. But Gretel was unwilling to use this opportunity to engrave a lethal spell. The main reason is that the probability of him chasing down the enemy and beating him to death is really very small, so he still hopes to get one that can be used daily. Teleportation. This magic is very useful, very useful. Even the basic version provided by the Council can cross hundreds of miles in an instant. However, the tragedy is that Gretel advanced too quickly and did not study the spell thoroughly. Unable to engrave. In fact, there are many very useful spells among nature priests. For example, enlightenment allows animals or trees to gain human wisdom. For example, the tree leaping technique allows the nature priest to move through one tree to another. Another example is the dance of the unicorn, which can create a cloud of mist and quickly clean away smoke, dust, and poisons in the air. But Gretel doesn't do either. He can also learn the magician's 5 ring spells in the Council's library, and redeem and recite them from the Thunder Horn. Many of the nature priest's spells don't even have scrolls or spell configurations. Greet didn't even have time to ask anyone for advice, so he could only slowly learn from the manual left by Elder Tapros, the collection of ancient vine birds, and the inheritance given to him by the oak staff. The result is that, until now, he hasn't figured it out yet. Greet depressedly picked and chose among the spells he had learned. Time passed little by little, and in the dark, a voice urged him urgently. Make a decision quickly. Time is limited. Greet sighed helplessly. Seeing time passing by little, he finally made up his mind and chose the spell that he used the most during this period and was already very familiar with it. Disease Technique. Disease, fog of disease, group disease. Gretel pieced it together and dismantled it, and made a spell template by himself. In his view, the reason why disease spells and group disease spells cost so much is because there are no casting materials and they need to be created out of thin air. But, is Gretel Nordmark the one who lacks the materials to cast spells? There are a lot of them in the laboratory. As much as you want. He can basically eliminate all pathogenic bacteria from category A to category B to category C. As for viruses, even though he can't cultivate viruses himself, he still has some knowledge. Wait a minute. With a flash of mental power, the little snake quickly transmitted a memory. It belongs to the disease girl again. It is probably difficult for the little snake to understand. It has just finished digesting it now and conveyed it. It's how the plague girl adjusts the fluctuations of her divine power and allows various pathogens to multiply rapidly. Although in Greet's view, her method of reproduction is quite a bit like supplying a large amount of magical power and then working hard to create a miracle, which is better than the high success rate. As long as there is divine power, it will definitely grow well. Just like when natural priests cultivate penicillium and streptomyces, as long as the holy power is continuously supplied, those molds will continue to grow. If the pH, oxygen, and nutrition are suitable, the plant will grow happier. If the conditions are not suitable, the plant will grow slower. But in the final analysis, it can grow. And more importantly, the power of the plague girl also includes adjusting the intensity of these pathogens. If you particularly hate the other party and want the other party to die, then make the pathogen stronger. If you receive offerings and worship, and are willing to let the other party go, then make the pathogen weaker. Gretel almost burst into tears. This power is really useful for him to develop vaccines. Attenuated vaccines, don't they just make the pathogen weaken and weaken again, until it weakens to a certain level? There was a deeper and more complicated part in this memory that Greet couldn't understand for the moment. However, the understanding part was enough for him to pack it up and engrave the relevant content into it. Using the fog of disease as a template, it connects bacteria, fungi, viruses, and various pathogens, and can freely adjust the scope of influence and the intensity of the pathogens. Crowd, fog of disease. The consumption is only equivalent to a 3-ring spell. It acts on a designated range, takes effect immediately, and the intensity is adjustable. Advance, success. Gretel slowly opened his eyes. On the oak staff in front of him, there were 5 pairs of 10 leaves swaying gently. 9 pieces are dark green and hard, and 1 piece is clear and bright green, like a young leaf that has just unfolded. Greet smiled and raised her hand to touch. Huh! The fingertips are sticky and sticky. Gretel raised his finger and blew on it, and found a piece of mycelium, which was all over the leaves. What are you doing? He asked the oak staff blankly. You're an oak tree. Why are you messing with these things? Ouch! With a bang, the oak staff jumped up and hit him on the forehead again. Greet held her forehead and cried out in pain. Although the oak staff hit him once, it also transmitted a large piece of information to him. How the plague girl gave birth to the power of control and various fungi. How to mix various bacteria together to promote growth, mix a blanket with smallpox in it, and preserve its vitality. This is using bacteria to feed viruses. Is it the virus that he tried countless times in the laboratory before but failed to cultivate? Greet's face gradually became serious. I want to experience it in detail, but there are too many technical difficulties in it. The nature and application of divine power is the biggest one, and I can't figure it out for the time being. It seems that the next stage of research direction can be determined for the time being. He rubbed his forehead twice and walked out slowly. As soon as she left the mage's hut, Cyrilla happily rushed forward. Gretel. Hello. Hey, have you advanced? Did it go well? I didn't even help you absorb the power of the elements. She walked around Greet, turned around, looked up and down, and occasionally twitched her nose to sniff. Gretel smiled and opened his arms for her to inspect, while answering non-stop. Yeah, I've advanced, it's pretty smooth. This time I don't have to absorb additional elemental power. The little snake fed back a lot of power. I almost made it through. Susu asked questions for a while, and the 6 golden eagle warriors cautiously approached and looked around from a distance. Seeing Gretel nodding to them, a few people walked slowly over and saluted carefully. Dear Lord of Plague. Gretel hissed. Can you guys scream less? If you continue to scream, the godhead will stick to my body again. What's up? He answered with a straight face, trying to look as dignified as possible. The leading golden eagle warrior saluted and said respectfully. First of all, thank you for fighting side by side with us and destroying the plague girl. Secondly, congratulations on your growth in strength. Well, I have indeed advanced. Gretel nodded calmly. I also got some of the abilities of the plague girl, such as inducing plague. By the way, now that the plague girl has been killed, when will you send Lin back? Book friends 202206021253225547 10,000 rewards plus more updates. Sorry, your name is too long and I can't write it in the title. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 973. Well. The atmosphere froze awkwardly. Greed had an intuition. The golden eagle warrior in front of him froze up, and even the light golden wings on his back dimmed in color. He will never admit that this is his own fault. The sun must be setting. This, respected, Greed's eyes widened. The golden eagle warrior shivered, and the Lord of Plague, which was already on the tip of his tongue, turned around and immediately changed his words. Dear Lord Shenzi, we are here to fight side by side with you to eliminate the power of the Plague Girl. As for returning Lord Lin, no one informed us when we came, and we have no right to decide. The previous contract was that I would fight side by side with you to eliminate the Plague Girl, and you would return Lin. Greed's face darkened. He moved forward with his hands behind his back, took 2 steps slowly, and looked at the other person. Well, it was a bit embarrassing, after all, the other person was half a head taller than him. Why, now that the enemy has been eliminated, you don't plan to send the people back? Do you want me to take them with me? He raised his arm and waved vigorously. On a branch in the distance, a kestrel crowed high, as if in response. After the kestrel, the panther roared, the water rushed, and the bison mooed. Come to the eagle country and ask for someone from you in person. Having said this, he held the oak staff in his hand and took another step forward. On the head of the staff, an ancient vine bird jumped around and flapped its wings. With every flap, a huge shadow passed over the heads of the golden eagle warriors. On Greed's shoulder, the silver-white kitten yawned lazily. He swung his tail, raised his paw and licked it carefully, then raised his paw to wash his face. The flesh pad passed by, the flexible beard bent, and 2 silver arcs exploded on the spot. Of course not, the golden eagle warriors looked solemn. The leader crossed his hands on his chest, bowed slightly, and answered respectfully. Dear Son of God, please rest assured that we will convey the results of today's war and your request back to the country as soon as possible. With your status, Trotoani, the leader of the golden eagle and the female snake will definitely personally intervene. Greed nodded slightly, but did not say that's it. Instead, he stared at the leading golden eagle warrior silently. The golden eagle warrior lowered his head and thought for a moment, then said with an apologetic smile. Dear Son of God, after a day of fighting, we have been very exhausted. We need to wait until the sun rises tomorrow and the sun shines on our wings before we can communicate with our gods. As he spoke, he pointed back at the wings on his back. Sure enough, the pale golden wings were hanging weakly, and the golden light was almost non-existent. Seeing Greed nod, he followed suit and said tentatively. Tonight, can we learn from you about the plague power you hold so that we can better urge Trotoani to make a decision? Greed had a headache when he heard the word power. He really doesn't want to be the Lord of Plague anymore, really, he was almost swallowed by this shoddy godhead. But there is no other way. So far, plague-related methods are his most lethal and threatening method. Gretel tightened the oak staff in his hand and lowered his eyebrows. I'm different from the plague girl. I just want to use this power to contain the plague and save the people from the disease. I don't want to use this power to spread the plague in a large area. After speaking, he paused, raised his eyes, and looked at the 6 golden eagle warriors in front of him one by one. The voice was clear and calm, but the tone was extra emphasized, word by word. Unless necessary. The chill in his tone made his heart tremble. The leading golden eagle warrior quickly bowed his head deeply. Yes, yes, we believe in the kindness of Lord Shenzi and will not kill civilians for no reason. However, we want to know, how much power can you exert against enemies, such as white ghosts? This is very important to us. Do you want me to infect the people of the glorious Holy See with the plague? Greet sighed tiredly. No, even if they were enemies, Gretel would rather burn them to death, blow them up, cut off the mountain road behind them, and let them die trapped in the mountains, rather than throw the plague down directly. This was so against his moral values. He worked hard to study medicine, not just to kill people with plague. However, just because some abilities can be used does not mean that they can be dispensed with. For example, with mushroom eggs, you can sign an agreement, sign the agreement repeatedly, and sign the agreement in different ways to show that you will never use mushroom eggs first. But if you don't have it, then I'm sorry, I won't let you play the great power game. You have to sit under the table, listen to the greetings, and pay the protection fee honestly. He raised his eyebrows slightly. Do you want to know my power? Do you want me to try it with an opponent and see how many people can get sick at once and to what extent? Don't dare. The Golden Eagle warrior quickly leaned forward, but while saying dare, his eyes secretly glanced diagonally behind Gretel. You are so familiar with them, can you find a few people to try it out? The lives of soldiers are valuable, but civilians are not worth much anyway. Greet made him laugh angrily. Oh, one's own life is life, but the life of others is not life. Why do you want me to take advantage of you and find people from other tribes to be guinea pigs? I think most of the white ghosts who invaded the Eagle Kingdom are samurai and shamans, right? He smiled slightly, turned his eyes, and scanned the 6 Golden Eagle warriors one by one. Even if we kill the ordinary people who work hard and serve the masters, we still can't defeat their offensive. So, since you want to see it, why not let the soldiers you brought over come and try it? In this case, reporting back would be more intuitive, right? That group of White Eagle warriors have personally experienced it and everyone can serve as a witness. Several Golden Eagle warriors looked at each other. To be honest, they really don't care whether Lin En is released or not. It's not in their hands anyway. But collecting as much information as possible is one of their tasks. If Lord Son of God is relatively strong but not strong enough to shake the Eagle Kingdom, you might as well have a good talk with him. Pay a certain price and let him deal with the White Ghost together, and promise to release him after the fight is over. Of course, during the battle, they will definitely treat Mr. Lin En as a distinguished guest. This is no problem, there is no problem at all. For this goal, there is no big problem in paying a few White Eagle warriors as test subjects. Anyway, looking at the character of the Plague Lord, the most he can do is make people sick, but will not directly kill them. Since the Lord has said so, we will call the soldiers under our command to come over. The leading Golden Eagle soldier bowed his head in salute, took 3 steps back, and then blew the eagle whistle. Soon, there was a sound of fluttering wings, and the wings of the White Eagle warriors densely covered the sky. Sir, please. Greet sneered. Are you really willing to give it up? Are the middle-level warriors under my command, the 8th and 9th level warriors, really willing to use them as my guinea pigs? Well, since you sincerely ask for it, I'll let you get this sick. He held the oak staff in his hand and stepped forward. Lower your eyes and concentrate. Activate the spell models in the meditation world, and then lock in various pathogenic bacteria in your memory. One name after another, a group of descriptions, passed through my mind one by one. The oak staff suddenly pointed forward and shouted in a low voice. Go. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of